Just finishing up making this opaque. This is our Resaca brand ABS Trick Shad. And today, I'm painting for a friend. This is going to be Totodile. Now, for the record, this is not going to be a difficult spray. There's really only a couple of colors that I'm going to be adding with the airbrush. Most of this work is going to be hand detailed with acrylic paint pens and Posca markers. So there's a good bit of this that you're going to see over here for the base layers. Got to make it opaque first. We're going to be using 2 blues, and I am going to stick with water-based acrylic. We're going to do some opaque sky blue and some Maui blue. Now this hasn't been used in a while. I've been using a lot of lacquers lately, but unfortunately I do not have the colors in blue to mix on this. No problem with an ABS. It will accept the paint. I've already got primer, and now I've got opaques. I've got the base layer in white, and we'll be good to go with this stuff. The trick in layering with stuff like this is you want to make sure before you do any paint pens that this layer is really dry. So we're going to give it quite a bit of time to dry on its own. It has been raining for 2.5 weeks straight every single day. There's about 70% humidity in the shop, and it's almost impossible to control. So we're going to do the best we can with what we've got. Unfortunately, there is not much climate control in this old building that we're using. So we'll just have to bear with it. So with this Maui blue, I really just want to accent a couple of the areas that might be thought of as shading. Just on the base. Hey Christian! I'm well, it's just that one big box. Thank you. Why don't you tell them that? No, it's really, they need to hear it from somebody other than me. All I'm doing is adding this darker Maui blue into the areas that would be considered shading. And since it's 3D, we're going to kind of follow the contours of the bait, but at the same time, I'm going to be adding in the features of Totodile. So I'm also, where there's 3, actually there's 4 little alligator fins on the top, on the dorsal, that are red, and behind each one I'm also going to add just a little bit of this darker blue shading, and then going back towards the tail. So not a whole lot, just a little bit to accent where those little crocodile triangles will go. And now we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to meet you over at the finishing desk. So the only other thing that I'm going to do with an airbrush here is, if you'll notice in the picture that's floating somewhere at the top of the screen, in the eye sockets, there is almost like a floating eye with Totodile. And it is a bit of a triangular shape, and then the eyeball comes out and above it. So when we're doing the eye, we first want to line it up with where the eyes are on the trick shad, but then you'll notice I've made a bit of a little hand cut stencil here. We're going to pop that out, and I do want it to be as clean as possible. This is just a index card that I'm using. So we're going to add that to the bottom of this eye socket, and then we're going to turn the PSI way down on this. Put a little bit of black opaque in here, but just do shading because we need to pop that other part of the eye and kind of make it look like it's 3D and floating. So just a little bit. I've probably poured in way too much in the cup, but just a standard black here. Bring this back up. Then I want to kick this down almost to like 10 at the very most. Just a real low pressure spray. And if I can pull it off, just kind of really chill and outline the edges. Okay. You'll see what I'm going to do with it in just a little bit. And actually, as I'm going through this, I'm realizing that I should be doing something else too. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this first. We're going to do something else with this. We're going to go ahead and put the eyeball in first and then paint over that. Because that doesn't make any sense if I do a really cool floating eye and then have the eyeball come over top of that. Yeah, so I really wasn't even thinking about that, but it makes more sense to go ahead and put the eyeball in now and then just paint over that because it's going to look kind of weird if I do the eye after and then try and paint over that. So we're just going to use all of this, put that in there. And then I'm going to let the glue dry before I hit with an airbrush again, because if I don't, then it's going to blow the eye right out. So we're going to give this just a couple of minutes and cut the camera and come right back in. Regardless of whatever you hear about super glue, Loctite, any of it, it's always more than 10 seconds. So just let it dry. So with this, now I'm going to come back because the eye socket is larger and we're going to cover the whole thing. Because remember, we're going to be painting over that. And if we're lucky, it's going to look really, really cool. It might not be exactly to scale, but it's going to be the same colors and in the same style as it's intended. Now you'll notice that because there's a little bit of a pocket around the eye socket, you'll get a little bit of spray over. That's easy to fix with a paint pen. So all of this from here on out, except maybe I might do some of the base coating with the crocodile fins, I guess you can call them that, the spikes on his back. I might do the triangles in an opaque white there. We'll see. We're going to heat set this. So for this project, we are going to be trying out some Sharpie markers. I've got a couple other random acrylic paint pens that I've used. They're pretty decent, but I think for this project, these have a finer tip than my Poscas. So I'm going to clean up just a little bit of this eye. And then complete that triangle right around it. And then we're going to make the actual eye, once this dries, out of white and red. Now, one thing I may switch and use is the Posca on the red, because I really don't like the shade of red in these Sharpies. Unfortunately, it's just not dark enough, and I really don't have anything worth mixing with it to get it darker. And I'm going to need it for the eyeball. So we'll have the eye floating and have it come up. And you'll see how we're going to do it in just a little bit. So I really want to kind of take a look at this on the chest. And I'm probably going to end up taking it off of the helping hands because it's 3D. If this were a plush toy, it would be easier because I would have more of a pronounced face on this. But similar to the Pikachu one that I just did, this is going to be a little more difficult to get proportions down. So I really want to take a good look at this. The eyes, I've got the coloring for this. Put the teeth in. I'm going to bring the mouth back a little bit. So when we do that, now there are black lines on this cartoon. I can probably get away with doing that, but I may not need to. So one thing that this is good for, so that is about the color of the red, if you guys can see that. And it's super light, but it is what it is. But it's going to work really, really well for the mouth. So we're going to go ahead and put the mouth in here and bring it back just a little bit further. You can hear the train. I hear the train a-coming, rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I've been stuck in bullshit swim baits. Time is dragging on. You know, it has literally rained every single day, like a rainforest, for the past 2.5 weeks. It's crazy. We've been fishing in the rain. It's just absolutely wild. So this is a cool way to do this. And yeah, I'm going to pull this off of the helping hands because it's really not helping at this point. We're going to set that off to the side. And then just to show you what I'm in here doing with the shading, I can kind of bring this chisel tip down and into the mouth and then draw this. I'm going to follow the contour of the trick shad and then just kind of bring it back a little bit further. So the crocodile mouth on Totodile goes all the way back to under the eye. So we're going to try and replicate that as best we can in this, and then come back and do the same thing with this side. And the beauty of these acrylic paint pens is that the paint is thick enough to where you really don't need to go ahead and put in white underneath any of your layers. That's pretty good. So now we have that distinct crocodile mouth. I'll go ahead and bring this back to a point. And then I might do one more layer over that. But that looks pretty good. So I am going to outline the mouth here just like you would see in the cartoons and in several of the illustrations on the cards. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to heat set every step. So you're not going to see that, but when we cut to the next scene, understand that I have heat set everything to make sure that it dries properly. Because the last thing I want to do is bleed acrylic marker and Sharpie and Uniball. So now we have an outline for the mouth. I'm going to heat set that. The next thing I really want to do is add in this little yellow harness, or almost looks like a utility belt. And it's going to come to a point right here at the belly. And the first thing we're going to do is just draw that line from point A to point B, and then lock it up at point C. And then once we have the outline in, it'll be a little bit easier to fill. Now obviously we can't get the exact proportions on something like this because we're pretty much taking the body of an alligator, or a crocodile rather, and turning it into the trick shad. But we can get close. So one of the cool things about these paint pens is that not only do they go on thick, but you can shade with them just like the Poscas. So I have a lighter color yellow that I'm going to be adding on after this, just to kind of give a little bit of depth and shading to this. And again, it's going to get heat set with the hairdryer on high. The humidity in this studio, unfortunately, is around 67%. And considering it's 73 degrees, that makes for a mess if you let things get out of hand. So I'm just going to fill in the base yellow, give it a quick blow dry, if you will, and then keep on keeping on with the shading. But now we have that little yellow band right there below the pec fin, which I may or may not turn into the hand, because the hand of Totodile has got 4 little fingers and kind of a thumb, so it's got a 5 point. So I may do that if I can figure out whether or not it's going to look good before I do it. But I figure I can bring it out like this and then just make a hand that way. Got that all dry. Now we're going to take the lighter of the yellow here and put that into, I think that's just about dried up. So let's take this, there we go, that's nice and light. This is the secondary coloring of the Sharpies, and I think the lighter yellow is pretty good to go on top here. So we're just gonna add just a little bit of shading differential into the part that would naturally get a little bit more light. And then do the same on this side, bring it down. There we go. Let's get that shading in there real good. This is going to be fun. It already is, really. Just add a little bit of dot in there to break up that shading so it's not so contrasty between. There we go. Very cool. Now I think I'm going to use the pec fins here for Totodile's arms, and I'm going to add that in. Where's my black Sharpie? There it is with the black paint pen. And they're going to be a little bit shorter than they would normally be. I want to make the fingers first, and I think I want the thumb on the inside towards the belly. It's almost like a Marge Simpson hand when you think about it. That's kind of how those are done. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use a brush tip for this instead of the Uniball Vision Elite because I don't want to scratch it, but it just has a little, not a round pupil, but more like that. We'll do the same on the other side. And then above that, we've got a little bit of white we'll put back in, but I want to dry this first. It's got just a little bit of a circle over top of the black. So we're going to add that in on both sides. And now I need that Uniball because I'm going to draw the black line around the red eyeball. Still kind of looks a little sharky, but that's going to change when we start adding the spines in. Now, it does have a bit of a, I probably have to do that with, I might be able to get away with it like this. So it does have a little bit of a secondary, yeah, it's not going to go on real smooth on this paint. Secondary line for the chin, so I'm going to add that in very lightly, or at least as thin as I can. it's much easier to portray images in like a picture or cartoon along the side of a bait than to turn a fairly flat bait into a three-dimensional, completely different creature. But this is kind of fun. And we're gonna give it the old college try, as it were. Something different. I do a lot of crazy out-of-the-box kind of stuff. And this is certainly one of them. It's a good challenge for me. And it may end up looking like a kindergartner drew it, which is fine. It's more whimsical and fun than anything else. Just to see what it would look like. So we've got the spines, and then the one back towards the tail. I think I would probably want to do a red tail if it were at all possible. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off. I could probably paint it. I could airbrush it, but it'll eventually come off. So I think I'm just going to go with like a white tail. But we're coming down the home stretch with Totodile here. I might want to give it just a little bit of reptilian skin with a stencil to finish this off. Just to see how it would look. It certainly can't hurt. This looks like a preschooler drew it. I don't care. It's fun. I'm having a good time with this. So I think with this, I'm going to use a little bit of a reptilian scale. And then this is just like a color change blue. I'm just going to go through a little piece of it. You guys can see that. Oh, it may not even be coming through on the camera. I can see it. Okay, so maybe this came out a little bit deranged. Just a slightly deranged Totodile. But fun, nonetheless. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm still contemplating whether or not we're going to put it on the channel. But you know what? Hey, why not? That's what it's all about, is having fun. And, you know, I bet you, and I challenge you to do a better one than me. I love it. But you guys, let's see what you can do with your favorite Pokemon character or any other character. Me and deranged Totodile signing off. Cheers and happy casting from Jekyll Baits.